Greetings and Christ's peace be with you. It's good to be with you for a time of some sharing. For my last reflection, I offered the possibility that you could ask a friar just about anything. And while very new to this journey as a friar, and so I don't know a whole lot, I have really appreciated the questions you've asked because they've given me opportunity to pray and to think and to reach out to others to gather information. So I am coming back to you with some responses to some of the questions that you have, and I'm going to focus on 3 of them for today. Not going as deep as I might like and you might like, but it gives us an entry point for conversation, and I encourage you to reach out to me. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kristofer Lindh-Payne, and I'm a priest at St. Thomas Epiphany Episcopal Parish. At least we're still called that for a little bit longer. And I have recently become a novice in the Order of St. Francis. If you don't know about St. Francis of Assisi, you can read about him on the World Wide Web. And the order that I'm a part of, the Order of St. Francis, has a really good website that tells you a lot about our particular order and the way that it is structured. So the first question that I want to respond to is one that was asked, what should we call you? How do we refer to you? Well, within my order, generally we call each other brother. We can call each other by our first name, but we refer to one another as brother. Within our congregational context, you should feel free to continue to call me whatever feels comfortable. If you'd like to call me brother, that's fine, but Kristofer's fine. Whatever helps you to feel like you can connect, whatever makes sense to you. But know that I won't, I'm not partial, or I don't feel any requirement for you to call me anything. In that sense, nothing has changed between us. Something has changed for me in becoming this brother and making these promises, and I'm still figuring out what that looks like, but I am so grateful to be a priest among you and to do this work that God calls us to together. There's a lot of exciting things happening in our congregation. So as I move to the next question, someone asked a wonderful one: what are the vows that I took? Now, historically speaking, within Roman Catholicism, the vows that are understood are poverty, chastity, and obedience. Now, within the Order of St. Francis, our way of life takes each of those traditional vows and has a very present-day reading of them through the lens of simplicity and humility, relationship, trust. There are core practices that we have and that order our life together as friars living across great distances, because we've got brothers that are in other parts of the world. But I'm still trying to figure out what it means. I remember writing in one of my early reflections to my counselor in this, in many ways I feel like with the things that are asked of me as a brother, there's very little that will change in my life. Like, all these things that make me Franciscan, like, they will continue to shape me. All these practices are things that I'm already doing. Now, in some ways, nothing would change. Nothing has changed. But in other ways, everything has. Like, my orientation, like, I feel more myself, frankly. I could have never imagined growing up that I could be a husband and a father. I could be a son and a brother. I could be a priest and a friar. And yet, in this world that God has created in the church that we are a part of, all those things are possible. And so I am grateful to have this opportunity to take the step in my own spiritual growth and formation, and to have you share in that in whatever ways you feel called to. Now, I had another great question from some folks asking about gender and whether this particular order is just for men. And so that was one of the questions that I had. And so as an Episcopal church, being very open to the LGBTQ community, there is a lot of openness within this order, and so gender is seen in a really beautiful way. It is a community of brothers, and I'm drawn to that. Some of you know that I grew up with 5 sisters, and I've always wanted brothers to support and hold accountable, to play around with, and to have that. I am a priest, but I don't function as a priest in the order, and so it's nice to have those different kinds of relationships. Now, for those of you who know a little bit about Francis of Assisi, you may also know a little bit about Clare of Assisi. And so when Francis felt this call to follow Jesus in this radical way, to rebuild God's church that had fallen into ruin, he really didn't know what was being asked of him, and he was trying to figure that out until the very end of his life. But soon after a couple of brothers gathered, it was not long after that another woman from the CC, Clare, came to join them. And so they tried to figure out what community looked like across these lines. And that was a very different time. And so they set up a whole nother order not long after Clare's coming in and making her own vows. So there was a first order of brothers, a second order of sisters, and then a third order that was men and women and children that could make promises and be a part of that way of following Francis and Clare in their radical way of following Jesus. So I know this order and religious life is not for everyone, but I am grateful to be a part of it, and I'm grateful to share aspects of this journey with you. I hope you'll keep the questions coming, and as you may reach out to ask a friar, I hope you'll feel free to ask what was on your heart, and I'm grateful for you and for this journey that we're on together as a community of faith. I trust that God continues to guide us in these uncertain times, and I look forward to talking to you more about this unfolding process. Until next time, Christ's peace be with you.